Oh, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I've been watching a lot of reviews of the first 4 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, to be fair. And one thing I found interesting is there's been a lot of complaints about how they've treated the character of Reymer, Captain Reymer. A lot of people liked him because he was, I guess, very masculine and stoic and stubborn and very, of the patriarchal norms. And I really don't particularly like him. A lot of people are comparing him to Shaw, who I hated, and I hate Todd Stashwick with an unusual passion, which I don't quite understand. But I mean, in this last episode, he basically refined his attitudes and behaviour a bit in relation to, I guess, adapting to being a part of the Discovery crew, because he's not the captain anymore. And a lot of people feel like he's been ruined now because he's no longer this overbearing, dominant, stubborn male, traditionally stereotypically toxic male sort of character. I didn't really have a problem with that changing. And the people who are holding onto that seem to be your typical right-wing, misogynist sort of people who they really value that sort of male military mentality of the sort of patriarchal, normal sort of toxic male sort of thing, which is not something Discovery has ever really embraced. I mean, outside of having the Mirror Universe captain, Lorca, who ran the ship that way. He was an example of that, but he wasn't a positive example that they kept around. Didn't even have him back for this episode when they could have. Some people point out they could have done it in a voiceover or something. So yeah, I'm not particularly bothered by that. I think he's growing, and that's good. I think the one thing that Discovery gets right is the idea that Starfleet isn't a military organisation, that it values all opinions, and that it's not just the sort of stereotypically masculine intellectual sort of idea of how things should be done. It's also, the feminine, the emotional, and the different aspects of humanity and alien races. It's just the idea that everything contributes and is all valuable as opposed to just this one straight male patriarchal sort of idea of how things should be run and done. That's one thing they get right, because that is something that's going to change in the future. Even if the military existed in the future, it would change. It would be 50% women. It would have other races. It wouldn't be just straight males and their sort of stereotypical way of how they think they have to be, because obviously, males have emotions as well, but they're taught not to use them and to be belligerent and violent and aggressive and all that sort of crap that comes with the military. None of that would be in Star Trek, and none of that would be in Starfleet. So the idea of having some of that as an example of something to correct or fix, people are sort of, oh, he's a great character. Oh no, they ruined him. It's kind of funny. Now, the other thing they did point out, some people did point out that I thought was interesting, was they did kind of trick us a little bit, and they tricked me with this episode. They made Michael Burnham look better by portraying her in the past as being rude and arrogant and aggressive and violent and everything, because that's how we think of her because of some of the stunts she pulled. But when you actually go back and watch some of the episodes, and sort of I was reminded by that, she had part of that underneath, but she also had that sort of Vulcan surface she sort of tried to maintain, and that sort of conflict there. And they sort of ignored that, and they just made her worse than she actually was to try and make her look better now. And I'm like, I kind of drank that Kool-Aid a little bit. It was kind of starting to taste a little bit nice. I'm like, no, she's not really much better. She's just in command now, and she's not attacking everyone and usurping everyone and being a mutineer. Now she's just in charge, and everyone is scraping and bowing in front of her. And it does run a little bit like that. So I'm glad some people pointed out and went back to earlier season episodes to look at how she behaved and show that she hasn't changed much. Instead of building change into the character, they've tried to sort of state it after the fact and then exaggerate the past and saying, no, see how great she is now, and now he needs to sort of be less like, he's more like she was, and so it doesn't really quite hold true. It's like, do they know their own history? Did they go back and watch the episodes, or are they just, this attitude, this idea of just sort of making it up as they go along? Whatever serves the story now is all that matters, not what actually happened before or what in the greater canon, and also just the canon and the character development with their own characters and their own show. It's kind of strange that this is something they continually do and have done since I think the second season, when they rewrote Saru and made his character totally different from how he was established in the first season, as this species that was had these fear instincts because it was a species that was preyed on all the time on its natural planet. That's why he was naturally tall and gangly and could run. Then they turned around and said, no, actually they just farm kelp. That's why they're called the Kelpians, fringe, and that they basically stand around and be cold because once upon a time they used to be evil, and the race that they were abusing turned around and flipped the tables on them and just was eradicating them before they could become a problem again in their sort of idea. So, but I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of some of these revisions of Michael Burnham.